Welcome to the super political compass of Leonidas, the fearless Spartan king, famous for his abs and one of the most popular battles in the history of mankind, the Battle of the Thermopylae. In this episode, we won't be talking about the historical figure itself, but the characterization found in 1998 comic from Frank Miller and the 2006 movie from Zack Snyder. It's hard to talk about Leonidas without thinking of the aesthetics that surround him. Both Snyder and Miller render him and the Spartans as demigods. There is an obvious adoration to what a proper man should be to the eyes of the Spartans. The first act of Leonidas' story is a visual journey of how the stronger must dominate the weaker in order to survive. The Spartans are portrayed as a superior race, thanks to a brutal process of natural selection that starts from the moment they are born, called the agoge. The whole sequence is a short lesson in eugenics. Tossing babies off a cliff is probably the most authoritarian thing the state can do, and although it looks like a savage practice in the past, well into the 20th century this was a thing. Many modern nations have implemented eugenics programs, like forced sterilization in Peru and California, China's one-child policy, or Nazi Germany euthanasia program. The primary engine of Spartan society is national pride. There's an intrinsic ethnic hierarchy and social Darwinism based in strength. Probably makes sense due to the situation, being invaded by the biggest army the world has ever seen. But it's safe to say that Leonidas thinks that force and deterrence is what keeps Sparta in the map. He's king in general, but more a warrior than a diplomat. Leonidas almost dismisses the relevance of any craftsman or trade other than being a Spartan warrior.
Spartans! What is your profession?
He also refers to Greeks as philosophers and boy lovers in a despective manner. But the reason why we root for the high-functional fascist army is because they uphold Western values as freedom, equality, and what seems to be the foundations of democracy and plural participation. It's not like submission is something in the Spartan playbook. Now let's talk about external policies. The Persian messenger comes to Leonidas with the heads and crowns of fallen kings and asks him for an offer of earth and water, effectively asking him to surrender both the Spartan land and means of production. Leonidas delivers both when he kicks the guy into a well. He ends up only with 300 men after facing bureaucracy, religion, and fundamentalist tradition. He outweighs the liberty of his people above all that. He expects his efforts to make up for the mistakes of the other branches of power. 10. The war is on. The entire argument of Leonidas' strategy revolves around numbers and how a single Spartan can kill hundreds of Persians, how a single free man is worth more than many enslaved ones. Yet the odds are never in his favor. Only for a brief sequence the idea of victory is mentioned and barely grasped by the Spartan king. In the end, this is a story about sacrifice. Victory or not, the 300 men will not surrender, and Leonidas will refuse to give up over and over again under more precarious conditions at a time. Each time he declines services, there's a different texture to the offer. First, it's just a capitulation to a bigger army and his rebellion is just an act of protectionism. But Leonidas doesn't fight for peace. Peace was just offered to him. Then he refuses command of the Greek army, because Leonidas is not fighting for blood or vengeance. Ultimately, he refuses forgiveness. He's not fighting for his life, he's fighting for the freedom of Sparta. In the climax of the movie, Thealtes begs Leonidas to surrender. To use his reason, he simply replies, "May you live forever," the ultimate Spartan insult, as they wish to die in battle. Something Thealtes will never do because he can't fight, and he's now a Persian slave. Protectionism, patriotism, separation between church and state, military government, freedom, foundations of modern democracy. All in all, Leonidas goes in a killing spree across the upper right quadrant of today's super political compass. He's a true nationalist, willing to live, kill, and die for Sparta. Once again, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. See you next time.